Namaste, welcome back to Beginning Sanskrit. Hopefully you had time to look at the chart, contemplate what a consonant is versus a vowel, think about some of the words that you say in your own language, where they come from, where the exit points are, and that will really help you when you start to think about the Sanskrit sounds. So we have sounds that come from the throat. We learned there are sounds that come from the lips. So today we're going to focus on consonants, or sounds that have a stopping point, an exit point where the sound is stopped and then released, versus a vowel where it's just free-flowing. So we're going to work on the stopping point of the throat. So if you look at your chart, where it says under the Om column, our first column, Kanthya. So that means relating to the throat, coming from the throat. We're going to focus on 5 letters today. We have K, K, G, G, and Ng. So remember that there's going to be 4 letters and then there's going to be a nasal. And that will be the case as you go down into the 5x5 chart, what's in the black box. So thinking about the throat. So let's think about that first. So an easy letter, which is not on our list of to-do list today, is H. You can really feel that exit point from the throat. It's a letter that probably babies say. I know that my mother, towards the end of her life, could easily say H. It's kind of just a release of air from the throat. So as far back as you can imagine, as far down as you can imagine, a sound being stopped and then released is where these sounds will come from. And we also have to review. We talked about some sounds have a lot of air coming, some sounds have a little air. Nice to start learning the Sanskrit words. Alpa prana, a little air, versus maha prana, a lot of air. So the way that it flows on the chart, we have alpa prana, maha prana, alpa prana, maha prana, and then we have our nasal. So in our alpa prana, it means a little air. So again, if you put your hand in front and say Ka, ka, no air, versus ka, and then ga versus ga. So more air for column 2 and column 4. And then it's broken down 2 and 2. These sounds are karkasha, and that means hard. So listen to the sounds ka, ka, versus our mridu sounds, the 3rd and 4th column, which are soft, g and g. And the way that I described it before is that the sounds are vibrating freely over here, and these sounds are a little bit tighter. The throat feels a little bit tighter. Maybe there's a little bit of pressure at the top. So vibrating freely and then a little bit tighter sounding. So I'm just going to say it. Don't worry about saying it yet. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. So again, these 2 sounds are a little bit tighter. These are relaxed. Here's our nasal. These 2 sounds have alpa prana, a little air. These 2 sounds have maha prana, a lot of air. So listen one more time. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. Okay, so now let's have you learn to say them. So in the next class, we're going to learn to write these letters, and it's important to practice writing them. Otherwise, if you only associate this sound with Ka, you're just going to revert back to old habits of seeing English words or whatever language that has a Ka in it. And we want to establish new patterns, and a great way to do that is to actually learn how to write it. So not doing that today, but just learning and thinking about the very first letter in the alphabet is Ka. So it's organized coming from the back to the front. So thinking as far down as we can think about our exit point for our consonants. So Ka with a little bit of air, a little bit of squeeze. Sounds like, close your eyes, ka. Listen one more time. Ka. So many people tell me that when they first hear these sounds, they sound like these sounds. So the ear and the brain will have to get trained to hear what we might call unvoiced versus voiced sounds, having to do with the vocal cords vibrating. So don't worry if it's not exactly perfectly clear yet, but no, less vibration and then more air. So ka and ka have a little bit of a tightness. So let's go back to our first sound and have you repeat after me. We'll do it 5 times. So K-A, our very first letter in the alphabet. So again, close your eyes, sit tall. Helps with breathing if you have good posture. Repeating after me. Ka. 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 One more time. Ka. So I'm doing it pretty slowly on purpose so that you can feel it in the throat. Like I feel the sparsha, the contact, and then you can feel the release. So I said in the last video, and you can see if you have the Devanāgarī chart, our Varnamala chart in front of you, that all of the consonants, all of the letters end in an A. And that A sounds like the up in up. So all of these letters, listen again, ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. Sound like, if you were to spell it, you'd probably spell it K-U. So know that all of these have the same vowel. So this one has alpa prana. We're going to move on to the one that has mahaprana. So Ka becomes Kha, and here's our letter. So closing your eyes, listen to this letter. Ka. One more time, just listen. Ka. Okay. So now listen, first and second letter, the difference. Ka and ka. So if you're to watch my belly, ka, ka, it's almost like you're practicing pranayama, like you're pushing a little more air out. It's a very buoyant sound. And if I do this, ka, ka, there's a lot of air coming out for that second sound. So we want a lot of air coming. So let's try the second letter. So close your eyes. We'll do it exactly the same way each time. So K-H-A, a little bit of squeeze, and we're going to push the air out. Ka. 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 So now you have vocalized the first 2 letters, ka and ka. So now we're going to move to the third column. So this sound is very similar to our first letter, except for the vocal cords are vibrating freely, which is why it's called a soft sound. So this is very easy to say. So that this letter here is G, G-A. But remember the vowel sounds like up as in up. So we have G. So we know the very cute deity, Ganesha, right? So his name starts with this letter, G. If we put a little bit of air, we have Mahaprana behind G, we get G. So again, G versus G. G versus G. So let's try saying the third letter and the fourth letter after each other. So listen to me say the pair once and then repeat. We'll do that 5 times. So close your eyes, sit tall. G, G. G, G. G, G. G, G. One more time. G, G. So it's going to take practice, especially with the Mahaprana sounds, to kind of feel that puff of air come. So just keep practicing. Maybe listen a few more times before you move on to the next video where we write the letters. Before I move on to the nasal, let's try all 4 of these letters. So again, Alpa Prana, Mahaprana, Alpa Prana, Mahaprana. And then Karkasha, harder sounding, Mridu, softer sounding. So I'll repeat all 4, repeat after me. We'll do that twice. So closing your eyes again. Just try to listen and repeat without having to stare at the paper. Put that down for a moment. G, k, g, g. Listen one more time and then repeat. G, k, g, g. So hopefully it's starting to come. And again, don't worry. Think about pushing your air. Use this if you need to check and see if the air is coming out. Feel the sounds coming from the throat. Think about what a hard versus a soft sound is. And then finally, this is really fun. Our nasals I just love the nasals. This one is fun because it will help you say the river in India correctly. So many people say Ganges. And I used to say that as well until I have written the word Ganga. So within the word Ganga, we have a half nasal. So we have the first part of this nasal, and you'll see when you move on to the other classes that many of the nasals are just kind of a half sound. They're in between different consonants. So in the word Ganga, it's really cool because you can already visualize it. We have a G, you already know that, like the Ganesha. Then we have half of this letter, that part of it, where we're stopping the tongue back there. We come back to this letter, and it becomes a longer sound, Ga. So Ganga, Ganga. So it's easier to say it within a word first. So close your eyes, sit tall. Let's say the river in India. Ganga. And one more time. Ganga. So I would practice just saying that word. You can also say the word sung. The ng is the full nasal. Ng. So it's stopped and released. And you almost hear a G sound in that. So again, the word sung, if you say all the way through the G, is this nasal. So when I first learned, I would say, when my teacher asked me, okay, say this nasal, I would have to think in my head, sung, and then I would just break down the ng part of it. Or think about ganga, take away the g, ng. So if that's helpful for you, these letters are g, k, g, g. Think about it. Ng. So all coming from the Kantha region. So spend some time thinking about these letters. G, k, g, g, ng. You can always send a recording to me to check. And have fun with your studies. Again, this is yoga for the mouth. Enjoy. Namaste.